Coming from an oil and gas background, we understand the necessity to scale your drilling and your completion cost and minimize those costs as best you can. We need to do the same thing. The Earth battery, as I call it, is an infinite source of energy for all of us on Earth. And we really have not taken advantage of it quite like we want to, and I think the industry will evolve to make that happen. It took us 15 or 20 years to understand how to make the shale revolution that powers the United States today work on a consistent basis. We're in the very early stages of making geothermal work at that kind of scale, where it is predictable. There is no limitation on the source. I mean, it's as I say, it's under our feet. It's the Earth's battery. We just have to be able to get the cost associated with making these geothermal subsurface systems work more efficient and more predictable. Once we do that, the utility companies, the industries, data centers, everybody will welcome that. There's a lot of money wanting to make this work. We just have to be thoughtful, mindful, and execute as perfectly as we can to create solid geothermal energy. Horizontal drilling and fracture treating that the oil and gas industry has evolved all the way from the early days at the Barnett Shale, through the Eagle Ford, through North Dakota, all these other places where that technology has been invaluable for the oil and gas industry. Some of it applies for the geothermal industry, but not all. In oil and gas, we're going down looking for something in the rocks, and we're going to take it out of the rocks and sell it. With geothermal, you're not doing that. You're basically reversing the process of where you're going to identify rocks that are qualified to be geothermal. You're going to then go in and drill them similarly the way we drill oil and gas wells, and then you're going to go in and frack those, also somewhat similar to what we do in the oil and gas industry. The big difference is you're going to fill that reservoir that you create with your drilling and your completions with water. And this is produced water from within the drilling. It's not fresh water, so we're not using fresh water for this purposes. But you have to then fill the reservoir with the water, then you have to pressure it up and produce that water by circulating it continuously through your system, bringing cold water into the system, heating it up as it goes around the rocks, and then bringing it back up to the surface and putting it into a power plant, converting it to steam, and then converting it into electricity. So it's a different approach to the business. That's where we came up with what we call the power disc. We were working with a PhD professor at the University of Arkansas who has a geological and geophysical background. We worked on the power disc, and what it is, we believe it's a revolutionary way of approaching geothermal, where instead of drilling, as we call the current doublets of two wells side by side, essentially, we've turned it on its edge and basically created a disc. And we drill down into the disc and then do the horizontal wells off of it. The disc creates a much larger reservoir that we can sweep heat from by circulating the water within the disc and then bringing it back up to the surface. Our analysis shows that with the power disc system, for the same number of wells that you would drill with a traditional design of the two wells versus a power disc, we think we can get about 4.6 times the amount of energy out of the well, and we can probably reduce the cost by about 60%. So it makes it a lot more effective, and therefore gets us closer to economic scale in terms of providing this as a good source for electricity. As we look at geothermal activity today, 50% of the investment is at the surface in the power plants. 50% of the investment is in the subsurface. What we're focusing on is how can we get the subsurface cost reduced, once again, to make it a more cost competitive fuel source. That's the biggest challenge that the industry faces, is we need to reduce the cost from where the current level is to make this something that the utility companies will be happy to have it into their system. Data centers would have it. I mean, there will be long-term contracts for this type of power. So I think that's the main challenge that we have, and what we're hoping and what we believe is that our power disk, which is a patented process, can provide that way of really reducing the subsurface cost. That's where, with our background in the oil and gas industry, that's what we've done, is we've really focused almost all of our talent and technology at the subsurface level rather than at the surface level. There's a lot of very talented companies that are experts at building the power plants and the surface stuff. And so we think where we can play the best is in the subsurface, and by reducing those costs and using the power disk to accomplish that. Companies like us who have spent most of their career dealing with subsurface issues by the way we drill the wells and how we have evolved in the capacity to improve horizontal drilling and completion techniques, that took us a long time to get that worked out, to where it now, today, most people look at that as almost like a factory process. It's not as sort of looked at with skepticism as it was originally, because we've developed consistency where you can almost continually drill and create new wells with the oil and gas techniques. We need to do the same thing in geothermal. We've got to be able to get it away from the sort of exploration concept that some people assign to it and create it more as like an infrastructure development project. Once we can do that with consistent results and cost, then the utility companies and the people from that stand part of the business will look more favorably on geothermal and will then be welcoming us to be part of the geothermal energy solution for the United States and possibly the world. Our technology not only works in the U.S., pretty much throughout the continental U.S., it also could apply and does apply internationally. So that's what has to happen. We've got to get away from that exploration mindset and make it consistent, cost, results.